Hey YouTube, welcome back to another video. I have another compensating euphonium at the moment. This is a Meinl-Weston 451. I don't think a lot of people are very familiar with the Meinl-Weston euphonium series. A lot of makers, I feel like late 90s, 2000s, came out with their own euphonium lines. I think they kind of realized, oh, there's maybe more of a market for this than we thought. And so a lot of the like German makers started making euphoniums. There were more makers in Britain, like Sterling and etc., York. Meinl-Weston, who makes a lot of tubas, that's kind of their thing, got in on the game as well with the kind of British style compensating 4-valve euphonium with the 451 and the 551. The 451 is the lower model. I'm not really sure how different it is. I know the modern 551 comes with a tuning slide trigger. This is from the 2000s, so it doesn't have one. But the 451 is the lower model. Think of it as a Yamaha 642 or the Weston Sovereign, etc. Still a really good instrument. It's just not like the fanciest possible one. I got this recently just kind of to check it out. I've played one of these 21 years ago at iTech 2004 when I was very young and like I don't really remember anything. Basically the only thing that I remember, and I think I might be conflating this with the Miraphone euphonium, whatever that is, TU something, I can't remember what it's called. I remember having really weird ergonomics. I was used to playing the Yamaha 321, which is, you know, completely different than these in all ways, and I remember this, but maybe the Miraphone, feeling very strange to hold and play. And honestly, it's kind of not. So let's talk about a few things about the 451 and mainly how it differs from my Yamaha 842, which I also have right here. So let's talk about how this is similar and different to my 842. First of all, spec-wise, I don't know the bore. I don't really care about that stuff, but it does have a 12-inch bell, because that does make a difference, which my Yamaha also has, which is different than some of the other lower models, like the Weston Sovereign, I think, comes standard with an 11-inch bell, which does make a kind of significant difference in how it sounds. Probably a little bit in how it plays as well. This is large shank, none of that medium nonsense. You know, it's got 4 valves, it's compensating. We know how that works. Not really worried about that. What I think is interesting is I'm not super well versed in euphoniums. I've had my 842 forever. I've played a lot of the compensating models, but like they all kind of look the same to me. But when you get too up close and personal, it's really interesting how different they can be while still technically being just like compensating euphoniums with the same shape. You're probably not going to see the differences, but look at the space between the valves here and the space between the valves here and that top bow. Yamaha has a way bigger space. The hand guard we use for the right hand on this is in a totally different spot and relation to the valves than it is on the Yamaha. I actually don't find it uncomfortable to use at all. I personally like to put the kind of web of my thumb on the grip, and so that actually makes sense for me, kind of like playing a marching instrument in one nice big C shape. This actually fits me pretty well. The Yamaha also fits me pretty well. It just is a little closer to the valves, and actually I kind of find the Meinl-Weston to be just a tiny bit more comfortable. If I put both of them on my lap at the same height, the mouthpiece on the Meinl-Weston is way higher, and that's a large reason why I have to use a lap pad. I use a yoga block, and one that's kind of thick, because the mouthpiece is really low on the Yamaha. On this, if I sit all the way up, this is the Meinl-Weston, it's like kind of perfect actually. And what's cool is I could actually do without the lap pad, and I can lean over and still play. The Yamaha is basically unplayable for me without a lap pad. If I leave this off, the mouthpiece is here. It's at my neck. This is like totally useless. And if I do use the lap pad, I can sit up and still play, and it's relatively comfortable. But that is really low on this instrument. This is something that changes a lot on different euphoniums. It can be like 6 inches different up or down. Again, I swear maybe it's the Miraphone I'm thinking about, where it's like up here. It's like really high in a really strange spot. Something that's also different is, and I thought all euphoniums were like this, the third valve slide on these, super long, right? And on Yamahas, it is full length. So this slide, nothing in there, good, is the entire length of the tube, because why wouldn't it be? I don't know. I mean, not that you need to ever pull it out all the way. In fact, on my Yamaha, it's in all the way, which is kind of annoying. On this Meinl-Weston, it is actually, this is hard to hold up to be in view, it's only that long. That's the whole thing. And what's really interesting is, even though it looks like the rest of this, gotta put that in just the right amount, it looks like the rest of this is just outers, and this would just be like a big empty gap. That's not true. There's an inner tube that goes all the way to where this ends. So there's just double tubing, which is just like the Yamaha, except only the last part of it comes out. And the really funny part is, on the Yamaha, I have this slide all the way in. That's fine. On this, the third valve slide is really short. It's actually much too short. And to get the 2-3 in tune, it has to be pulled a significant amount. And so only a little tiny bit of this is actually in the instrument. So these instruments should switch. This instrument should have a full length third valve slide, because you do have to pull some of it out. And the Yamaha would actually be really handy if it had this setup, because then I could take it out and dump it instead of using the spit valve. Just a really, really odd decision there. Second valve just has the pull ring like usual. Unlike my Yamaha, this has a first valve spit valve, which is actually kind of handy, because this first valve is also really short and needs to be pulled out a significant amount. On my Yamaha, the way I currently have it tuned, I have that all the way in. I actually have every slide all the way in except for the main tuning slide. That's the best way to tune for me. We'll talk about the overall tuning in a second, but a lot of these slides, including fourth valve, need to be out a significant amount for this horn to be in tune. If you look at the back, look at the compensating tubing here. Really different design here. Something that I think is odd, and maybe not from the factory, is that these are very loose fitting. I can just take this out and it goes in, but it is not a tight fit. I think the same goes, the same goes for this, which is also very short. That's a very short piece of tubing. So I don't really expect that you'd really want to tune that and pull it out, because it would just fall out. On the Yamaha, these are so tight. In fact, the first valve is kind of stuck where it is, because it is just so tight. And the third valve, interestingly, I have to pull out to be in tune. And again, is really, really tight and basically stuck right now. Again, this is a top model euphonium, so Yamaha is very good about fitting their slides. I think they just did that on this instrument. So that's some of the ergonomic stuff. How do they play and tune and stuff differently? So the first thing you might notice is I'm using a different mouthpiece on each one. This is my Greg Black 3G 5G M, which is the mouthpiece I found out that I have to use on this. It sucks using my other mouthpiece, which is this. Dennis Wick SM3U. Let's make sure I'm getting that right. Yes, SM3U. Which I used for a long time in my Yamaha, and it just was like not fun to play. And on this, bang, it's perfect. I knew it would be. I actually went and play tested this before I bought it, and I brought this mouthpiece because I was like, I know it's gonna work in this. I have a feeling this is gonna be a perfect match, and guess what? It is. Another thing to note is this is a fully floating lead pipe. So if you look, there's a gap between the bell and the lead pipe, except for the spot where it actually is mounted, of course. Nice floating lead pipe. I don't know if you can see my finger behind it. So it doesn't touch the bell at all, which improves response, apparently. Interestingly, the Yamaha, which also has very good response, has a soldered lead pipe. So that's soldered for a good 3.5 inches to the bell. Very solid connection to the bell. That makes a difference. I don't know what it is. Again, I'm not like a 100% euphonium guy. Let's talk about how they play differently. So they use different mouthpieces. I can't test them with the same mouthpiece because they both want different things. But that also tells you that they play differently. I find the slot on the Meinl-Weston to be kind of a little bit, there's a little more face feel. I'm getting a little more, I would call a resistance, but it's not stuffy. There's just a little more definition. This horn takes just like a little bit less air to play. Again, I don't want to say that it's stuffy because it has resistance, but that is the feeling at the face of like where that resistance is a little closer on this instrument. And due to that, the high range feels very good on this. I enjoy playing in the high range. The low range, I think, still has a really good sound and is not difficult, but it is more difficult than the Yamaha. So we'll test those same things on the Yamaha on the microphone. So this has what feels to me a much better low range. It really centers on pretty much all of those notes as I go down, except pedal B flat, which is like just not a good note on this instrument. It's really hard to just come in on pedal B flat and not or bleh. Very strange thing. I've always had that problem with this. You notice the sound is different. We'll get to that in a second. But just generally, I find this to be very easy playing, and you don't have to play euphonium low very often, so it's not a big deal. But the low register is just a little worse, I would say. But I do really enjoy the sound. We'll talk about that in a second as well. And again, it's not hard to play down there. I'm just really used to the Yamaha, and that is a very, very solid low register that I like to play because it just kind of, it works. It slots. Is that useful? Not especially. You just don't really need the low register on euphonium that often. High range on both instruments I think is pretty okay. High B though, we'll play both of those, and high C are a little bit different. So those are okay notes right now. High B on this has always been a problem for me. It's gotten better recently as I have gotten better, but I'm still having to put in some work to play that high B. Here's the same stuff. So the problem I have on kind of both instruments, I don't want to talk about intonation too much because that's a big part of this. The high B on this just feels a little more like a real slot. It just feels like I'm playing something that's a real note. On the Yamaha, that slot is so skinny. It's just like the smallest thing, and if I miss it, I'm playing an A, or maybe I'm playing a C sharp. It really does not want to play B. This just kind of is like, yeah, here's a normal note. And again, I'm not going to talk about intonation. The C's on both horns are okay. I feel like I'm really having to like raise my eyebrows to play high C. Let's talk about intonation next. So on any euphonium, intonation is the bugbear. We'll talk about sound last. We'll talk about intonation first because I actually think intonation is a little more important. I actually read some stuff about this instrument before I got it, and people were like, yeah, third valve side, too long. You have to use 2 and 3. Well, obviously, to get 2 and 3 in tune, you need to pull out third valve slide. Also, all the G's can't really be played with 1 and 2. They're a little too sharp. You have to play them with third valve. And I have corroborated this. I've played to the tuner in a drone and really kind of figured out, wow, this really does need third valve G's all the time. And the only problem I had, and I had this fixed actually, is this had a big kind of flat spot here from the horn falling down at some point. And third valve just didn't have the same response that 1 and 2 did. I think it's better now that I had the flat spot taken out. But it does feel different than playing 1 and 2, which I usually would prefer. It's better to play through shorter paths, multiple shorter paths, and one longer path, which is why I prefer to play 1 and 3 rather than fourth valve, which of course you never get to do because on this it's really out of tune, as it is on basically every brass instrument. Otherwise, intonation I've found to be pretty okay. The middle register doesn't have like any massive quirks. Except the same problem that I have on my Yamaha is that B natural is really low. C is like just barely up to pitch. I have the same problem on the Yamaha. It's just like extremely low, which I think is interesting. That should be a sharp partial. That's the third partial that we're playing on the F side. And for some reason on a lot of compensating euphoniums, that's flat, which means some taper somewhere is wrong, which I think is understandable since the compensating path through the euphonium is going to create a lot of weird bends and tapers that are just not quite how they should be. So having that B flat is not a huge surprise, but it is a bummer because you have to play B natural kind of a lot, and it needs to be in tune. Other middle register notes seem okay. The slot for the third partial in general on this is a little more picky. I need to kind of aim to be right on top of the sound or it gets really fuzzy. The Yamaha is a little more consistent in that range. Not an intonation comment. B flat, fine. I do need to play E flat with 1 and 3. That's my preferred combo for that. I know a lot of people like to play 1 and fourth valve. And don't really like playing through the fourth circuit unless I really have to. What's cool about this is that you can use that same series, the seventh partial, for E and F. Sorry, I'm using alternates. It's really handy being able to lower those 6 partial notes by using alternate valve combos, like E, playing that 2 and 3, bang on with the tuner, which means if you're playing the third of a major chord, you can play that 2 and 3 and just kind of lower it instead of playing 2 and being like 20 cents sharp and having to lower it by like 30 cents to get that in tune. And also having F, I missed that because it's so sharp. That's kind of bang on with the tuner as well. And if you need to flatten it, you're playing the third and a D flat chord or something, you play that third valve. That's really handy. My Yamaha does not have those same alternates. I play E flat the same way. Get this back out. I like that E flat a lot, 1 and 3, but E and F are, I think, a little too flat. I haven't checked for a while. Yeah, it's like really low. I could use that for the third in a C major chord, and that's kind of it. There's a really big difference between those notes, and it sounds more different than it does on the Meinl-Weston. I don't really want to use that. 1 and 3, spot on for E flat, but I have to play E and F, the open positions. Like I said, I have to play all G's with third valve. This is something new for me. I've like just never checked that out, and it turns out I've been playing high G super sharp my entire life, and so playing third valve sounds flat, but it is correct. And on this, it actually feels pretty good. And on this, compared to the Yamaha, high B flat, spot on. No weirdness. I really like that. On the Yamaha, high B flat is sharp. Very sharp. So let's listen to that. High B flat on this. I noticed it without a tuner a long time ago. I was like, wow, that's high. That high B flat just sits really high, and if you want to play just like the root of a B flat major chord, you kind of have to think lower. And I've actually pulled my tuning slide out when I have kind of like an obvious high B flat, because it sits really high. I've honestly not tried alternate fingerings for that. Maybe first valve. I don't know. Never really tried that. Again, B natural on both these horns, if I'm feeling good, is good. High C on both of these I find to be a little low. And that could be me just kind of like struggling in the upper register. That feels good right now, but sometimes with the ensemble, that's the end of Jupiter. Yeah, a little low. I want that C to just be bang on. Yeah, 1 and 3 super sharp, 1 really flat. Open is the best one, but it's just a little flat. And that's a bummer. I'm actually playing the Planets like this upcoming weekend, maybe in the past when I upload this video, and I have to use the Yamaha. Now, we'll talk about the sound in a moment, but the C is kind of a big part of that. I need to have an in-tune high C. This one's just low enough that I don't really want to do it on this. Otherwise, intonation, low register on this a little wacky. Fourth valve seems a little bit high. If I pull this out any farther, though, then I kind of lose C and B in the staff. I'm tuning that F a little low on the compensating side, and the low F is still a little bit sharp. And 1 and 3 is really sharp. I really like the sound in the low register on this, but the slots for those are much wider. They're much less obvious where I should put those compared to this. Like, that low C is probably sharp, but I know exactly where to put it. And if I need to play a low C, I'll probably pull out my fourth valve tuning slide a little bit to get that in tune. Yeah, I really like the low register on this. Again, I don't know how useful that is, but it's better. Let's talk about the differences in sound. So hopefully you've heard, as I've played both of these, they sound really different. One thing I really like about this Meinl-Weston is just really warm. It's got just a larger, more encompassing sound than the Yamaha does. Again, really sharp low F. I'm really digging that sound. My Yamaha does not sound like that. I love how the Yamaha has a big, kind of like powerful tenor tuba sound. And I feel like in an ensemble, I can really push that. I can play it loud, and that sound is going to come through. But it doesn't have that same presence, the same warmth that the Meinl-Weston does. I think they just do different things. And the reason I'm using this on the Planets is I can just play it really loud. And I used the Meinl-Weston in a rehearsal. Things went okay, but I generally felt like I reached a dynamic limit that this does not have in the same spot. It's a much higher dynamic limit when I really want to. I can really just send that, and it still sounds pretty good. The Meinl-Weston gets a little squirrely when you just lean on it super hard. That's that resistance, the face feel that I was talking about. The face feel starts to kind of back up if I really want to push the dynamic limits. And again, the high C, just a little flat, which means I can't really use it. I think right here, playing these side by side and playing that little solo from the Planets, this sounds really cool. And some people might be like, oh, this one's better. But I kind of guarantee the Yamaha's projecting more, and it's going out into the hall with like just an awesome sound. I played the Planets like 2 months ago, and Yamaha killed it. It felt great. I was kind of excited to try this, but in rehearsal, just didn't have the same feeling. I think this would be great for some other things. The problem is those other things are things I don't really do. I play euphonium in a brass ensemble and occasionally with orchestras. That's kind of it. I played in like large settings, and the 842 is kind of perfect for that. It gets to just make a big tenor tuba sound that is going to have presence within a large setting. It's not going to just disappear and be a little too fluffy. This would be great for kind of like anything else. You're playing in a quintet or you're playing solo rap or whatever. This thing really gets around. I'm not good at the noodly euphonium thing of playing super fast, but these valves feel really good, and they feel like they are really easy to change notes with. It feels awesome on this. That little bit of resistance, that face feel helps it when you're playing super noodly fast stuff and just kind of like not trying to play super loud. I really dig that, and the sound is so cool. But generally, I think this euphonium probably not the fit for me, just because of what I do. If I did other stuff, I'd have to think kind of hard about which one I was going to keep, because I've been having a lot of fun just playing this. Generally, it's just kind of easy to play. It feels really easy. You can kind of just relax and back off in a way that my Yamaha doesn't quite do all the time. I have to put a little more effort in to play this at the same kind of level. And it just doesn't have that same like really warm, like encompassing euphonium sound. So that's my review of Meinl-Weston 451, especially versus Yamaha 842. For my uses, 842 is probably going to take the cake, and I'm also really used to it. I've had it for 20 years and a couple years, 18 years now. But this is a really good horn. If you see these around, don't discount them. I know they're not like super popular. People like Eastman's and Wilson's and I don't know, a bunch of new stuff that all cost a lot of money. These don't cost that much money. Even new, they were not super expensive compared to the competition. I think it was significantly cheaper than the 842 at the same time. And now used, they're a lot cheaper too. I will probably be selling this for around $3,000, which I think is a steal for a like German-made compensating euphonium that's in very good shape. I don't know. Hit me up if you want a compensating euphonium, because this is killer. It also comes with a cool hard case. There's much like cooler and smaller than my Yamaha hard case, which is not common. Usually the Yamaha has the best possible setup, but this one has a much cooler case than that. That's all I got time for now. I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye.